Hi, Queen A. How are you?
How you doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
It's
Happy
good.
Monday.
Yes, yes. Happy Monday it is. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get started before we
Okay.
get into it. So welcome to Slapping with Truth with your girl Queen A. Y'all know I bring guests from all across the world, right? And we bring mindset awareness. That's what we is all about. All right. Today we have a lovely guest. She's going to touch into some healing for y'all. Okay. We got some healthy healing for y'all today. Okay. So, with further ado, I'm going to let her introduce herself. So, I'm going to give it on over to Miss Jonna, y'all. How you doing, love?
I'm doing really great. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I'm excited to talk with you and to share a little bit of wisdom. And hopefully, your listeners will get lots of value from it.
Oh, yes. I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. So, before we go forward, tell them a little bit about what you do.
Absolutely. So, I'm a holistic health practitioner, and my claim to fame is working with women who are stressed out and who are struggling with gut issues. And it's all about giving them the tools that they need to heal their gut so that they get on the right path of achieving optimal wellness. And I do that by utilizing all natural tools. So that includes supplements, essential oils, herbs, changing their lifestyle, implementing whether it's spirituality or just connecting with nature, meditation, just having that time to decompress and really focus on what the core or the root cause of their gut issues is all about. So once we make some significant changes with their lifestyle, a lot of these symptoms that they have, they start to actually disappear. So it's an amazing process and I absolutely love it. And I've been doing it for a long time, but it's certainly my passion and where my heart is.
And we can see it all in your face. I
Oh,
see it. You
good.
like when you talk about it, you just light up so you can see it all in your face.
Oh,
So before we start, have you always been like a health fanatic? Or like was
ye-
it a time where you wasn't like you didn't care nothing about health?
oh no, it's been a long journey. I've been in the health and wellness field for over 25 years. I'd say at least half my life. A lot of that influence came from my father, who was a vegetarian when I was a young girl, and so I learned quite a few things from him, and he planted some seeds in me. And throughout the years, it's just been this journey of acquiring so much knowledge and wisdom and understanding, and also just understanding the individual, that we all have individual needs and that we are all uniquely designed. So, really having a foundation in that. And then, of course, with, the standard level of education. I got my bachelor's in community health education, and I was also a personal trainer at one point. And then I got my master's in human nutrition. And I also am a student and graduate of the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. So I have a few qualifications under my belt, but most importantly, a lot of that has been through my own experience and also working with clients and understanding how people can differ in so many different ways and they have different needs, and really focusing and tailoring my program and my protocols to their needs, because that's what it really boils down to. What is that individual struggling with and how I can be of support to them, but most importantly, using tools that work synergistically with the body. And there is a time and place for Western medicine, which I am an advocate for, and then there's a time where we need to just look to nature, because nature has so many amazing health benefits that we just need to understand how they work and how to best utilize them. So it's been a long process, and I can't really say that I'm an expert, but it's just been an ongoing journey. And as each day passes, I'm always learning something new. So that's really what I absolutely love is just like this unfolding and and learning all of these new things that you know, sometimes the information is there and it's apparent, and then sometimes you have to dig for it and really go down some holes to find it.
That is true, especially with gut health, because
Mhm.
I've talked to people all across the globe, right? And I always hear people that focus on health, but this is the first time I've actually had somebody that zoomed in on specifically like gut health. That is specifically what I want to focus on. How did you come across that? Like, what made you zoom in after everything that you've been studying and say, you know what, I want to focus on just gut health?
That's a great question because it really had me like microscopically look at like where health begins. And I came to learn at a certain point after, you know, having my nutrition practice back in New York. I had an office space and I would see clients and they would come to me with various health issues. So it was, you know, whether it was struggling with weight, skin issues, energy issues, mood issues, aches and pains, and I noticed that there was a pattern. Every time we focused on cleaning up the diet, and meaning that just eating clean foods, focusing on organic foods versus conventional, and trying to avoid foods that were inflammatory, I noticed that all of these symptoms would just kind of dissipate. And so it became this understanding that if I focused on what was happening in their gut first, with their digestion first, that that made such a big difference, whether it was weight, whether it was, you know, feeling depressed, or whether it was feeling anxious, or whether it was a thyroid issue. When we focused on what was happening in the stomach first, all of those other things start to slowly go away. And it was amazing. And I'm not even going to say slowly, but it was within a couple of weeks my clients would notice changes. And each time I would be, you know, a little bit surprised, like, really? Like, your skin is not doing this anymore, or it's not red and inflamed, and the eczema is getting under control. Like, so it just became this trend. And then I started to dive deeper into it and studying more on what was happening in the gut and the gut microbiome, and how we need to have this balance of these different microbes, and how to fortify it so that it becomes um, a strong place for our immune system to thrive. Then it started to become more clear and clear that this is where I need to start with each individual person if they really want to achieve health and wellness. And the most incredible part about it was the understanding of that gut brain connection, that there is a strong connection between what happens in the gut and what happens in the brain. And whether that's because of mood issues, or whether it's being able to focus and think clearly about different things, or creativity, or, you know, like all of those things had a root in what was happening in their gut. So that was really profound for me to understand that. And it's almost like, you know, which came first? What came first? Like, is the chicken or the egg? Or is it what's happening in the brain first that's affecting the gut? Or is it what's happening in the gut that's affecting the brain? So once I started to see this pattern, then I thought, okay, I need to just focus on this specific area. And I noticed that it was I mean, men do have this issue too. Yet, it just became this thing where women became more connected with me and attracted to me because they were seeking out my service. So I predominantly help women. So that's why I focus on stressed women. And a lot of stressed women, you know, they typically tend to be the nurturer of the home. They're the ones that are usually the primary cook. Sometimes they're not, though. But if I can help them, then they can make an impact on their household. And that's why I focus on women specifically, but I do see male clients as well.
Hmm. Now, I heard you say you're from New York, right? So I don't know if y'all
Yes.
know. So she from New York, down here in Ohio now.
Yes.
So from New York, it's a different environment. than it is up here in Cincinnati. To me it is. When I stayed up there, it was like a melting pot up there, by New York and everything. Here, not so much, right? So,
Mhm.
do you think that the treatment or symptoms, do you find that when considered just speaking on gut health, do you think it's different from like the East Coast to Midwest, or are like the symptoms or treatment kind of like the same, being that, with the environmental change? How does that work?
So that's interesting because I never really looked at um, the environmental impact, meaning that if you're well, there can be a difference, and I'll explain what that difference could be. So, if you're working in a high stress environment, so say you're working in New York City and you have to commute in and you have to drive in, or you don't have time to eat breakfast and you have to eat on the run. Some I would say that that's a common theme in the New York lifestyle. And maybe not so much here in Ohio. However, in Ohio, there could be a difference in maybe culturally what people eat, and maybe not being so well informed, or maybe it's not as popular as it is in New York, where in New York City you can find a health food store in every single corner. Where maybe in Ohio you might have to like really look for it, and maybe it's not as common as a trend to have that easy access to health food stores. So that could be one or two factors, that it's a little bit more laid back in Ohio. We don't have that hustle and bustle of New York City, but at the same time, stress is stress, and stress is a perception. So whether you're living in Manhattan or whether you're living in Ohio, in Cincinnati, people do experience stress according to what can be a trigger for them. So it doesn't matter necessarily at the end of the day where you live. But those could be some slight factors as to what someone in New York may be experiencing versus Ohio.
That's interesting, because it is a big difference. Like you said, even the way we eat, because when I went up there, I got some pizza and it was totally different for me. I was like, oh, what's that? 'Cause it was like
Yes.
the pizza down here is totally different from New York. I always heard about it, but I never experienced it. And then a guy came out, he had the pizza just like all up his arm and just going, I was like, oh my God, I didn't know I wanted it. But it was just like a whole new experience for me. So when you say, like when you was talking about, just culture, right, just the way we eat is totally different, So
Yes.
I'm glad that you did touch on that part right there, because it is totally different. And I'm glad I got to
Mhm,
move up there to experience it, because people used to come down here and I would
mhm,
always hear people say that, like talk about like, y'all pizza is different. I know people from New York come down here and I'm like, how can pizza be different? That's how I'm thinking. I'm like,
yes.
how can pizza be different? Like it's just pizza. But then you
Yeah.
go somewhere else and you're like,
Mhm.
oh, it can be different.
Yes.
So it is. It's like even the ingredients we think of when we think of spaghetti
Mhm,
is totally, or just chicken. Like the chicken was different. I couldn't
mhm,
believe it. Like the way they fried their chicken in Delaware. I was like, how can fried chicken be different? But yeah,
mhm.
it's totally different from the way we eat. So it's but like you said, it just depends on basically what you're intaking, on how basically you're gonna, have, treat or talk to them, or, go about diagnosing them, or however your process is when it comes to that right there. But can you
Mhm.
explain what microbes are for people that don't know? Because I heard you talking a lot about that.
Yes, that's important to know and to understand. So, throughout the whole body, we have different microbes that live within us and on us. So, we have different parts of our body that have a different collection of bugs, essentially. And these bugs can be whether bacteria, it could be viruses, it could be um, worms, it can be protozoa. Like there are all different types, and then there are types that we don't even know yet. So these bugs, or this microbiome, is really how these bugs live and get along. And we have them on our skin, we have them in our lungs, we have them in our gut, our reproductive system. So they're all doing very specific jobs. And when they're in harmony, they get along well and they keep each other in check so that no one is taking over and no one's trying to do things that are harmful. So they have this understanding and they help each other. Now, the problem is that when we have something that changes our environment, and that could be stress, that could be alcohol, it could be medications, it could be chemicals, whether in the air or in the water, it could be food, whether processed or fresh. It could be all sorts of things. And when those things come into the picture, they can have an effect on the microbiome and change it. Even a lack of sleep can have an effect on your microbiome. So if you're not getting enough sleep, then some of these microbes, maybe they don't do their job. Or in our gut, we actually have 80 to 85% of our immune system thrives in the gut wall. So when that initial fort is not doing its job and being supported to protect your body, then guess what? You have pathogens that can get through. You can have the bad bugs get through because usually these good bugs, they'll protect your body from it. They'll protect whatever's coming through. And when you don't have that fort in your gut fortified to help protect you from the things that don't belong in your bloodstream, then you're on track and everything is functioning accordingly. But the moment that something is thrown off because of the stress, lack of sleep, medication, alcohol, processed foods, then your system gets weakened. And hopefully it can repair itself. Maybe things will slow down. Maybe you might have some brain fog. Maybe you have some aches and pains because the pathogens got into your bloodstream. Maybe, you have some skin eruptions because some of the pathogens got through and then your body's reacting to it, you know, or you're having a headache or, it could be all those things. And if they progress, that's when the problems start to get bigger and bigger. So you might start off with this small symptom of like, oh, my skin itches a little bit. But if you just ignore it and let it progress, you don't change your food, you don't change your sleep quality, you're drinking too much, eating all the bad things, drugs, chemicals, medication, then the symptoms get bigger and bigger, and then they start to expand, and then it goes into a diagnosis. So whether it's anxiety, depression, eczema, arthritis, like these symptoms start to progress. It could even develop into cancer. Like that's like the next step before actual death if you don't resolve those little issues. So that's why we need to take those little symptoms seriously because it's the body whispering to us, telling us, okay, something is off, something's out of balance. We need to rebalance this. And if you listen to that, then you can prevent that expansion of that symptom going into a diagnosis of a disease. So that's why it's so critical that we need to take those symptoms seriously and address them way back in the beginning before they get out of hand and out of control.
So what are some symptoms you would say for somebody that could be experiencing gut issues? Like what are some like first symptoms for somebody that might just think it's normal, or something just a little ache?
Yeah, so it could be gas, it could be bloating, it could be belching, indigestion, it could be brain fog, meaning that you have those moments where you can't think clearly. You could be lethargic. You can be sleepy, where you feel like you have to take lots of naps because you don't have enough energy. It could be the aches, the back pain. It could be aches in your joints. It could be muscle pain. It could be skin issues, eczema, psoriasis, acne. It could be issues with your nails. It could be a ton of things. Hair issues, whether it's dandruff or like all of these little things that people are struggling with, 9 times out of 10, it's because of what's in the gut, what's happening in the gut. And the reason for this, if you think about it, people tend to feel better initially or maybe after a period of time. Like if you were to do a fast, right? People tend to feel better at some point. Usually, maybe not so much in the beginning if they're withdrawing from sugar or some other substance, but after that stage passes, then people start to feel better. And it's because they're allowing their digestive system to relax and rest and recover and heal. Because this is a thing that we're doing every single day. We're always putting something in here, right? And the body's just like, okay, what is she bringing down in here now? You're like, what are we going to do with this thing? And what is that thing? And then the body has to try to figure out, okay, is this something that's safe to eat or is this something toxic? Oh, it looks like it's toxic. It's foreign. We have to try to detoxify it. Then it's like, oh, well, it's just too much sugar. We can't handle the sugar is just coming in too much. So then guess what? All the beneficial bacteria or microbes start to weaken. And then, oh, then maybe candida, which is a fungi, can come and take over. And then we get more symptoms and it progresses, whether it's a yeast infection or oral thrush or the brain fog, lethargy, like feeling all of those symptoms. Then you may know, okay, this might be something that's off with my digestive system. And it could be also very obvious. It could be constipation, it could be diarrhea, or it could be both. So when you look at all those symptoms and then tie it to when you're eating, what you're eating, how you're eating, then you can make some connection that, okay, this could be the food, right? That's causing these symptoms. So that's why it's really important to try to figure out, um, you know, when these symptoms come up for you and what you've eaten in that time frame, whether it's, a few minutes to 48 hours or even 3 days after that.
Mm. So is it some standard things when people think that they're experiencing gut issues that you would say to lay off of? Like, or do you have like a standard, like for everything? It don't matter what it is. Lay off this stuff right here if you're experiencing gut health. Can you share that?
Yes. The number one thing that people typically have an issue with is gluten. And gluten is a protein that people have a hard time digesting because of the way food has been modernized, and in particular, our wheat. The grain, the wheat grain is not what we used to eat years ago, right? They have changed it and it has been genetically modified that it's at a point where we have a very difficult time digesting it. And the reason for that is that they modified it so that it could be pest resistant and so that it could be something that will, stay in the shelves longer or, they get to keep their crops growing and flourishing instead of having pests destroy it. So if you think that it's pest resistant or harmful to pests, what is it doing to our gut if we're ingesting it? So is it causing some damage for us? And so it's really about how they treat these particular grains in our country and not other countries. So like, I've heard this repeatedly that people who eat bread here have more gut issues versus people who eat bread, say, in Italy. And because they treat their grain much differently and they don't treat it the way that they do here with all the chemicals or the pesticides and herbicides and things of that sort. So you don't have those same gut issues in Italy versus this country. So those are the things you definitely want to watch out for is the gluten's number one, and then also conventional dairy. Like those two are at the top of the list. And conventional dairy has been a great challenge, and it's gotten a lot of bad rap over the years. It's kind of like gone through this cycle of, oh, one day it's dairy's good for us, drink milk, and then the next minute it's like, oh, it's bad for us, it's cow mucus. And the problem is that many years ago, when we had our own farmland, we had our own cows, we were milking our cows and drinking fresh milk and churning butter and making our own cheese, and we weren't doing anything to it, and it was digestible. The problem is that as manufacturing came in and agriculture changed over time, and we've mass produced dairy. Well, they've introduced certain processes to keep the milk shelf stable. So they've done things like pasteurization, where they heat it to a high level in order to kill the bad bacteria in it. And they've also practiced homogenization, which is removing that fatty layer from the milk to make it more visually appealing. Now, the problem with that is that that bad bacteria, so to speak, is actually beneficial bacteria. And there are also enzymes in raw milk that help to pre-digest the milk for us. And then we receive the benefits and the nourishment from the milk. Well, when you take that step out of the equation, then the body is struggling trying to process and digest this milk, because it doesn't have those key ingredients that made it easier to utilize the nourishing vitamins and minerals that are already in the milk. So the body's struggling, like, how do I process and digest this? And then whether it's going in, tapping into our own reserves, or just trying to, or ending up with, various symptoms because the body's rejecting it, then we're in a place where, okay, we can't really digest this too well, and we're having all these symptoms, but we're not making the connection. And the homogenization part is, you need that fat actually that's in the milk. That's beneficial too. Most of our cells and our organs are made of fat. Our brain is made of fat. So these are things that are actually healthy and necessary for the body. But again, it boils down to whether you're having raw dairy versus conventional dairy. And that's where I see a pattern of people becoming very sick, is when they're resorting to conventional dairy and then they're having these negative reactions.
Ah, thank you for explaining that. I didn't even, because you don't think about the difference. Like I didn't even think about that process. Why, like you was talking about, why milk it used to be healthy, and then they say it's healthy, and then it's like, no, it's not healthy again, and now it's healthy again. It's like you go back and forth every day. So when you said, I'm thinking like, she ain't like this. Every day is something new with the milk. That's just like with
Mhm.
everything else. It's like one day they recalling beef, they recalling,
Yes.
everything. Yeah, I can't even look. It ain't even I could say anything because they literally recalling everything. Rice.
Mhm.
I'm talking about stuff we thought was literally healthy for us is being recalled on
Mhm.
a daily
Yes.
basis.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
can you talk to us about, for people out there that may not know, in the Ohio area where you at, or in the or New York area, or online, where they can find some of these, or some best places to go to shop? Do you have any places you recommend if you're trying to stay healthy and eat food?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So the best place to get your food is at a farmer's market or a food co-op, because not only for the freshness, which is most important, but you also want to develop a relationship with that farmer and find out how are they treating their farm, their animals. How are they treating their cows? How are they treating the chickens? What are they feeding them? And ask questions. And they will more than likely share with you and even allow you to come and visit to see what the farm is like, to see the quality of the farm. And that's how it should be. That's how the relationship should be with our farmers. And we really need to support them, because they've been targeted in this country over the years. And whether it's having their farmland taken from them or restrictions placed on them, but they are really providing the nourishing foods that we all need. And, the saying is simple, fresh is best. And anytime that you can get anything fresh, and whether it's the vegetables or the fruits, that's where you're going to get all the viable nutrients and the meats and also, the dairy. Because if you think about how they live in tribes, as an example, in Africa, they are drinking milk straight from a cow. They are eating the meat fresh from their cattle or whatever animals that they're utilizing. Everything is fresh. They're not eating, necessarily, unless they're in a major metropolitan city, they're not going to the grocery stores. And those are the people that are not suffering with cancer. They're not having digestive issues because they're also eating their cultural foods. So they're not going through those experiences of eating overly processed foods, So it's an interesting thing when we think about it from that paradigm, from that perspective that, eating what you grow and what's provided for you on your land and fresh animals, then there's something to that. And that's the problem is it's the middleman. What are they doing to the foods when they deliver it before it gets to our supermarkets? And then we end up buying it in the supermarket. So if you can find a farmer, whether it's the farmer's market, I absolutely love. I mean, I was so grateful coming to Ohio because in New York, there are different regulations. You can't necessarily buy raw milk, but there are ways to access it from within Ohio. So you can find raw dairy in the supermarkets. So you can find it in Kroger, you can find it at Trader Joe's, you can find it at Whole Foods. So you just have to look for raw dairy or raw cheese. As long as it doesn't say that it's pasteurized, then that means that it's raw. And then you could also get raw milk from sources such as Market Wagon, which is a great food delivery system. I absolutely love them. So I get my fresh meats from there, freshly farmed eggs. I get cheese from there. They also sell milk as well. So you can find dairy products as well as produce. So it's a great resource, and I have that delivered to my home. And if you think about it, when you eat whole foods and farm fresh foods, you're going to be more satisfied because you're going to get all the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, all those things that your body thrives on. And you'll be less likely to be snacking because when you eat empty foods, your body's like, okay, I'm eating this bag of chips, but where's the vitamin D? And I need another bag of chips. There must be a vitamin D in the next bag. But like nothing's showing up. I guess I need a third bag of chips. So that's where all those cravings come from too, is because the body is seeking out those nourishing vitamins and minerals that can be void in processed foods. So those are the things you certainly want to look out for, and how you can get access to farm fresh foods.
That's something interesting. I never ever thought about that. When you were just talking about how when we eat one bag of chips, it's like, okay, I didn't get what I was looking for. And
Mhm,
so maybe the next bag will have it, and the next bag, and nobody thinks about it like that,
mhm.
but we eat fruit or
Yes,
vegetables, we don't
right.
have that same craving.
Mhm,
So I was just sitting here thinking about that as you were saying it, like that's true because when I eat fruit, I don't even think you don't think like
mhm.
that. So that's
Right.
amazing to have you put it in that. I like how you said that, like, like, hey,
Mhm.
where's my vitamin D at? Where my vitamin A at? Okay, maybe it's in the bag, maybe it's in the Kool-Aid or whatever you got
Right.
going on, right? It's like, I'm
Yes.
a fan
Yeah.
there from wherever,
Right.
so I love it. I love that you said that. Do you
Mhm.
consider, is there any kind of diet? I don't believe in diet. What do you consider to be a healthy eating habit if you're trying to have a healthy gut?
Yes. So it can vary because if you currently have gut issues, for example, if you have excessive diarrhea, so then that may be because your gut is inflamed. So you don't want to eat lots of raw fruits and vegetables in that instance because it can be more irritating. So if you're eating lots of salads with a lot of raw fruits and vegetables in it, that's going to just upset your gut even more because of the fiber. It's going to be so rough. So imagine like you eating a Brillo pad going through your intestines when it's already irritated. It's just going to make it worse. And so the body is going through a detox and it will just eliminate those things because it's just too irritating. So in that instance, a person should seek out animal foods. So making a meat stock, and a meat stock is different just from bone broth. Bone broth can be beneficial too, but with meat stock, you're putting in the joints, the muscle, the skin. You might have organ meats in it too, and you're making a soup out of that. And then you can certainly strain it, and you're drinking that because that's where you're going to get the collagen. That's where you're going to get those essential vitamins, especially those fat soluble vitamins and the iron and the B vitamins. And that's going to help to heal that gut that's irritated and inflamed. So that would be the best approach for someone in that situation. And even, having that type of symptoms, maybe not having conventional dairy for sure, but maybe just a little raw dairy. And after a period of time, that could be just some sour cream. It could be a spoonful of sour cream that you add to the meat stock because the sour cream has the beneficial bacteria. So you want to bring in some of those fermented foods slowly to help increase that microbiome. So whether it's organic or freshly made yogurt, again, that has that beneficial bacteria, because the goal is that you want to bring those good bacteria back into your gut and you want them to flourish and grow and multiply and thrive and replace what was missing. So for a person in that situation, you want to start off on that path. Now, if it's somebody who has a lot of excess weight on them, and they've been eating lots of fried foods, lots of meats, conventional meat, not even organic and grass-fed, lots of sugar, then for them, they may need to eat lots of fruits and vegetables. And that's because the fruits and vegetables have a detoxing and cleansing effect on the body. So then the goal for them would be to clean out what's clogged up in their intestines, all that putrefied or rotting food that's trapped in their gut. So you want to make sure that you have that fresh fibrous foods that are going to help to push things out and get things going and moving through the body. So that might be an appropriate diet for that person in that situation. So it really depends on what the person's going through and the condition of the gut. But typically when people have a lot of gut issues, it's about removing those inflammatory foods. So conventional dairy, the gluten, the grains, raw foods, such as fruits and vegetables, like removing that first, letting the body have some time to rest from digestion and just calm down for a little bit and bring in the foods that are nourishing and soothing and rebuilding of the structure in the gut. So that's where the meat stock comes into play. And then we focus on rebuilding that microbiome and bringing in a little bit of the raw dairy, the fermented foods to get that beneficial bacteria. So those are the initial steps for someone with gut issues.
Wow, that's a lot. I appreciate you sharing that with us. I mean, because whoever knew, like you said, it depends on, like you said, if you're running, you don't want to eat certain things. And if you're, the opposite way, you don't want to. So it really just depends on what your issues are, or as the gut, before you just, tell them, hey, start with this or start with that. I'm glad you touched on that. Now, coming from New York, I got to touch on this. What made you come down here to Ohio? I just had to, because when I was up there by New York, I moved up there for business growth, right? Because it was up there, like it was on the top 10 for business growth. I moved to Delaware, Newcastle, and I loved it. When I see why I was on the top 10 for business growth, because when I was up there, I talked about my business, and it didn't care what I talked about. People didn't want a business card. They wanted my product, right? So in New York, it's easier to sell. Like I could pop the trunk and sell a light. I could sell this microphone in New York. You can sell anything, right? But what made you come to Ohio from New York with all that, possibilities in New York? What made you come here?
Well, you know, I am a New Yorker. I was born and raised there. Grew up in the Bronx, and you know, when you're in it, then you're in this hamster wheel of intensity, um, of life there. So, you know, and then again, it could depend on where you live, but there's a high energetic level to New York. And of course, there's a lot of people there. And when you get removed and you move outside of that, you don't see how much of an impact that high energy can be on the body after a period of time. So some people love it, some people thrive on it. So that was one of the the benefits of coming to Ohio, because it is more laid back and there isn't that high level of intensity energy wise. The main reason was that my husband, who's a priest, he was invited to consider a position at a cathedral down in downtown Cincinnati. And so he has history here. So he actually lived here for a period of time with his parents when they were alive. And so he decided to, you know, take the plunge and return back to his, um, you know, stomping grounds for a period of time and kind of carry that torch of a legacy that his father left and continue on that mission. So so it had its benefits to come back here. And I think when you go from like this extreme energetic, high intensity environment, and then you come to Ohio, that's like, okay, this is more relaxed. There's no traffic.
It's
You know, I can do this. It's like, okay, this is good, you know. So, but you know, there were some challenges, and but we've been working through them, and we take the road trip back to New York at least a couple of times a year, so it's not that far, you know.
oh, okay. Well, that's good. So it ain't like you gonna never go back. So you do get to go
No,
back.
oh yeah,
Okay. But it
yes.
is a big difference. It is Ohio is like a relief. Like you go to New York and it's like horns blowing everywhere. Everybody's blowing, get out the way. It's like, hold up. Like, you come to Ohio,
Yeah.
it's like you looking for the horns. Like, I don't know where everybody
Right.
so it's like, like where the people go? They gone, they left. It only took a 10-hour drive for them to leave. It's like I'm just scared. No. But so let us know, how can we reach out to you for the people that's watching it that may like, hey, I've been having some issues. I'm not sure if it's good or maybe it is my gut and I want to reach out to you because I want to work with you. How can they reach out to you?
Yes, so I have my website, which is tailoryourwellness.com. So Tailor, tailoryourwellness.com. You could also find me on Instagram at Leaky Gut Wellness. I'm also on Facebook, Tailor Your Wellness, as well as TikTok. I'm starting to grow a little bit on TikTok, so be patient with me. That's another beast of a platform to kind of get a handle of. And you can reach out to me in terms of we can have a discovery call. We can talk about what some of your symptoms are. It's complimentary, and just to see if it's the right fit. So in terms of what I offer and what you're looking for. So it's just, a great opportunity to get to know me a little bit better and how I work and how I can be able to support you, and maybe be able to support you with your conditions as well. So sometimes it's a great fit, and then sometimes it's not. Maybe there's something much more deeper going on. But I have a strong connection with other practitioners. So if it's something that's really out of my scope, then I can try to help you in other ways as well and refer you elsewhere.
Oh, you heard now. You said leaky gut. I had to say that on Instagram, right? Did you say leaky gut?
Yes,
Okay,
leaky gut.
I gotta ask her about that because I know I heard that right. I love that name though. It's a very catchy name, so I just
Mhm.
thought I had to like say that
Yeah.
again. Yeah. So, and do you do one-on-one coaching or group coaching,
Mhm.
or do you do
So
both?
So I'm currently doing one-on-one coaching at the moment. In due time, I will develop a group program. But I really like working with the individual because it really boils down to tailoring my protocols to that individual person's needs. So the one-on-one really works best because, sometimes we have to change the protocol specific to what that person is struggling with. So yeah, I do one-to-one primarily right now.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I'm like, okay. So one of the things that I have to ask, because I know the audience is going to be on here. So
Mhm.
you do one-on-one and you do group coaching, right? Correct?
Not yet, but in
Oh, so
due
you don't
time.
do the group coaching yet. Okay,
Not
you said
yet.
in due time. Okay, in due time.
Mhm.
So as far as your program goes, can you tell us like a little bit of what to expect if we was to join your program?
Yes. So I have a 12-week program. It's called the Pain-Free Gut Solution, and it takes you through various stages of healing. And it starts with removing those things that are very inflammatory to the gut. And then I take you through different avenues of utilizing tools that help support the gut and in terms of healing it and also increasing the gut microbiome. So, like I said before, I use supplements as well as herbs and essential oils, which are amazing. And it's really about helping you through that process of healing and recovering from the damage that's happening in the gut and then restoring that microbiome so it's functioning optimally.
Thank you. Can you hold one moment? My kids keep calling me. I don't know what's going
Okay.
on. I
Oh, okay.
apologize.
No problem.
One moment. And I keep on trying to tell them. They just keep calling. I'm like, okay, maybe something's
Oh,
wrong.
yes.
One
Answer the
moment.
phone.
One moment. Hello. I apologize.
It's okay. It's okay. Is everything all right?
Yes, everything's okay. My daughter's calling me to ask me a question. I'm like, are you really serious? Like, I declined like four calls, and I mean, like four just because I knew she didn't want nothing. You know how
Oh,
kids is, but it's like they kept calling, so I'm like, okay, let me answer just in case. Because if I
right.
don't answer, I'm gonna feel bad. If something
Right.
wrong.
Yeah.
So it
You
better
did
safe than sorry. So
you
I
did the
do
right
apologize.
thing. It's
Yes,
okay.
I was like, I knew it too. And she just like, hey mom, what you doing? Like, really?
Oh my God. Gotta love the kids.
Gotta love them. You hear me? Gotta love them. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so I do apologize. So can you take us through the structure again? Here go my son. I bet you he's calling because my daughter kept calling me. Oh my God. I do apologize. Like, are you serious? Like, one moment. I apologize.
Sure.
I apologize. Oh, kid.
Okay. It's okay.
Do you have any youth?
Yes, I do. I have two boys,
Two
14 and
boys?
17. Yes, so I understand completely.
Yes, and it's like when you don't answer, I'm trying to tell you, they blow you up and they
Mhm.
don't even want nothing. It's like, but if I didn't answer, I tell you something would have been wrong and I would have been feeling
Right.
so bad. So I apologize for that.
It's okay.
So now I won't have to worry about that no more. So can
Right.
you walk us through a little bit about what to expect from your program?
Yes, so it's a 12-week program. It's called the Pain-Free Gut Solution, and I focus on removing those foods that are inflammatory to the gut and introducing foods that are clean and nourishing and healing to the gut. And then from there, it's about rebuilding that gut microbiome. So that's where the supplements come into play, as well as the nourishing foods, excuse me, that help to support a healthy gut. I also use essential oils and herbs as well to make sure that the gut is really getting the best benefits to help it thrive and get and overcome those gut issues. And then also looking at the lifestyle too, because those things play a role. So I help my clients um, manage stress, as well as having some moments of solitude, and also making sure that they're doing some type of physical activity that they enjoy, and also making sure that they have healthy relationships, because that can play a role in the level of stress that we have in our lives. So it's really a wonderful experience to see someone go through this process, and see them grow, and to see them heal, most importantly.
Yes, because the gut is where it all begins, just like she said. So I was glad that she said that, because usually the things that's coming out of our pores or whatever is coming from the gut.
Mhm.
You know, we
Yes.
feel lightheaded, is like you said, most likely something in the gut or anything.
Mhm.
How important do you think water is when it comes to gut health?
So water is beneficial. We need to stay hydrated, but also keep in mind that we also need minerals, right? So we need magnesium. We also need a good level of salt. That's going to help with balancing all the minerals that are in our body. So you don't want to overhydrate, where then you're actually flushing out a lot of the minerals from your body. So that's important, to have that healthy balance. So I talk a bit about water intake in my program. And then some people, resort to drinking other things that are not as beneficial. So if you're drinking too much coffee or alcohol, those things can be very dehydrating. So if you don't have enough of that hydrat, or I should say, if you don't have enough of that fluidity in your bloodstream, then that can be a very significant factor in your health too. You don't want your blood running through you like it's molasses. So that's why you need that hydration.
Yes, that's very important. So stay hydrated. But like she said, too much of anything I feel can be dangerous. I want to
Hmm.
stress that, because people say, I can just drink water. It's like, no, you still need other things as well. Too much of anything can be
Yeah.
dangerous for you. So before we get off of here, so she said I want to go over this again. So she's available through website, through Facebook and TikTok. She's working on TikTok, but she's getting on, and all of them are Tailor Your Wellness, correct?
So Instagram and TikTok are at Leaky Gut Wellness.
Okay.
And then my website is tailoryourwellness.com, as well as Facebook.
Okay, so all right, so we got Leaky Gut on TikTok and Instagram, y'all, and then we got
Hmm.
Tailor Your Wellness on Facebook and on what's the other one? That's the
My
website.
website,
That's right,
yes.
tailoryourwellness.com. So make
Yes.
sure that y'all reach out to Miss Jonna. She has so much information when it comes to gut health. We don't have a lot of people specializing in gut health. So if y'all watching this episode, if y'all jumped in on the middle, like if you clicked it in the middle, go back and watch it from the beginning to the end, because she gave y'all so many tips. And reach out if you think that you might just be experiencing a little bit of gut, problems. Reach out. It don't help to reach out and say, hey, can I talk to you about your program, or you see, any consultation, how much the consultation fee is, whatever. Because I can tell you now, the information that she's going to give you is not the same information that you're going to get at your primary care doctor. I'm going to let you know that right now. Okay, so make sure that y'all reaching out. And do you have any tools or anything that you have, or that you offer anything else, or is it just your program? Do you have any other tools? We want to make sure we put
Oh,
that on here as well.
yes. So if you go to Instagram at Leaky Gut Wellness, I have some free resources there that you can download. I can send you a link. All you have to do is just send me a direct message, and I'll send you a link to get some great gut healthy recipes that'll get your day started. And I'm also hosting an event this upcoming Sunday on the 24th, and it will be at the Heart Rooted Healing Center in Montgomery. And it will be from 11 to 2 p.m. And it's going to be a pop-up wellness studio, so you can get access to free samples. We're going to do some DIYs, as well as, you can experience wonderful treats, and I'll have a raffle as well too. So you can come on down. You can pop in at any time, and you can leave at any time. So it's a come and go between 11 and 2.
Where that's at in Montgomery? What's the address?
So it's 99122 Montgomery Road, Suite 11.
I think I registered for it. I'm not even sure because I think you sent me a link to it.
Oh yeah, that might, but that probably was it. That's it.
I think so. I think you did send me a link to it, if I'm not mistaken. So that's why I think
Great,
I registered for that when I got to thinking about it. So yeah. So
great.
I'll definitely. That's this Sunday, right?
Yes, this Sunday.
From 11 to 2 p.m.
Yes.
So my team meeting ends about 11:30, so I'll be a little late, but I definitely want to
Okay.
come and support. That's something that we all can use, including Queen A, because I tell you now, you're gonna be getting on me sometimes, like, hey, you gotta put that down. Sometimes we gotta think about, do we want to eat to live?
That's
So
right.
that's why I love this episode right here, because it's all about, what do you really want to do? A lot of times we complain, but we put so much in our body without even thinking about it. And yet we still complain, but we don't complain about what we pick up and put inside of our body. We just complain about what comes out. So
That's
a lot of
right.
times we got to think about what we putting in our body. So before we leave, do you have any tips for anybody that's watching today? Is there anything that you would like to leave us with?
Sure. So stick to eating real food and try to avoid the things that come in packages, right? As much as possible. Make sure that it's fresh because fresh is best, whether it's picked from the ground recently or you get it from your farm, your local farmer's market. Just try to resort to fresh foods and also try to cook at home as much as possible because then you know what ingredients you're using and then it'll be simple ingredients and not a whole list of artificial things that you can't even pronounce. And that's really the most important thing when it comes to supporting your gut is eating real food and avoiding the stuff that's processed.
Mm. And drink moderate water, you all. So don't drink don't drink all the water,
Right.
balance it out, like
Yeah.
I like to say, everything in moderation, including moderation. So
Yes.
that's how I like to remember it. That's just easy for me. So I don't know if that's easy for y'all to remember. So before we get off here, y'all know I gotta tell y'all, if don't nobody else love y'all, y'all already know Queen A does.